Cajuns, Bobcats, Jaguars, all NCAA bound. It's Locked On Sunbelt. Welcome back to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right, a ton to go over. Baseball is just about set. Cajuns secure the number one seed and can do no worse than co-champions. They need to win one ball game this weekend against South Alabama, and they will be the 2024 champions. We had a good ball game for the bottom. Actually, not for the bottom. Troy was trying to still stay in this, and Texas State gets 2 out of 3. So we will get into that as well. But first and foremost, softball. So the Cajuns get to host. They're the 13th seed. They get Princeton, Baylor, and Ole Miss. South Alabama was actually the first one that was in. They're heading to Gainesville. They have been there before, and they actually played pretty well in that one back in 2021. They shut out Baylor 2-0. They did get hammered by Florida, but then lost to South Florida 1-0. So they have competed in Gainesville before. And then Texas State did not host. The Sun Belt Tournament champions end up being, I guess, seeded 17th. They end up going to College Station. They'll take on the Aggies. They'll be in the Aggies bracket there. Their region, College Station region, as the Aggies were the 16th seed. All right, but let's back it up. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's back it up, as this was a great Sun Belt Conference tournament. It did have the 4 teams that you thought that it would. I know, Coastal was technically the 4 seed, but it felt like it was going to be Cajuns, Texas State, South Alabama, and Troy. And the Cajuns and Texas State, who both played in the championship, struggled in the semifinals. Both of them needed to come back. First, the Cajuns are getting no hit. Not basically. They're getting no hit for 5 2/3 innings. Elistad ends up getting a base hit after a walk. And then Vic Valdez hits a 3-run home run. And all of a sudden, the Cajuns are winning in the bottom of the 6th inning. And then Troy's got, very little time to regroup in the top of the 7th. And the Cajuns go on to win. Same thing for Texas State. South Alabama was cruising, I think, until the 5th inning, like leading 3-0. And that game, they tie that ball game up late and go into extra innings and hit a walk-off home run, as it didn't start out Mullins versus Lackey, but it eventually got that way. And in this case, Mullins won that battle pretty handily. She came in relief and, held South Alabama at bay for, I think, most of the entirety of her appearance. Lackey pitched incredibly well. I mean, close to 300 pitches, like over 2 days. I mean, they were riding, that horse as Texas State was riding Mullins, and it was a really good softball game. I'm glad that South Alabama still got in. Interestingly enough, I think Oregon got into the first bracket, so that would have been Texas's. And so they had an RPI, according to Warren Nolan, at 34. South Alabama was 35. All right, so then you get Texas State and the Cajuns. So Texas State's your host team. They are the 2 seed. Surprisingly, the Cajuns ended up getting home field. I'm not sure how that happens. Usually you got to split it up. I think the 1 seed should always get it. The better team should always get it. But you'll see in the upcoming, whether it's softball or baseball, they want it to be fair. I don't understand why it has to be fair. That you're ranking them intentionally, and so those teams should always be the home team. But it worked out this way, where the Cajuns were the home team. Now, Texas State jumped on top of Sam Landry. I thought Noah Ferry and Dorian Kraft did a great job calling the game. I don't think that Sam struggled all that much to begin with. I mean, it was an error, and then off of the glove, which was a base hit, but these were well-placed balls, not hit all that hard. She did walk somebody and did give up a base hit after that. Didn't get anybody out, right? So she's certainly not rolling, but these things were not being tattooed all over the place. Now, Chloe Reseda came in and probably could have got out of there with only one more run. But there was an error with the runner going in front of Vasquez at short, and instead of 2-0, it was 3-0. Cajuns come right back, make it a 3-2 deficit. Then the Cajuns take the lead 4-3. Elstad had herself a day, drove in 4 runs, and it's all of a sudden 4-3, I think, heading to the top of the 5th. And this is where the Cajuns needed a 0. And so there was 1 on and 1 out, and all of a sudden 3 runs came home for Texas State. And you kind of felt like that was going to be enough. Like, I'm not sure the Cajuns were coming back from that again with Texas State, with Mullins. They got it to they had another 2-run home run off of Landry. The pitching changes that Jerry Glasgow made seemed to work a lot, except against Texas State in the championship game. Cajuns got it to 8-5. Could have got it closer, but Mullins is really tough. Pitcher of the year in the Sun Belt, and had the home crowd with him behind him. And, the Cajuns, gave up 5 unearned runs. So uncharacteristic, for one of the best, if not the best defensive team in the nation. 45 double plays leading the nation. But credit both the Cajuns and Texas State for, making it to the championship. The championship belt, if you will, for Texas State, not quite enough to get them to host, but all three, Cajuns, Bobcats, and Jaguars, all getting to the regional. I think the Bobcats and South Alabama, both 2 seeds. So a little bit surprising there. Cajuns were happy. People I talked to, they had a watch party on Sunday. I think Jerry Glasgow actually said he thought it was going to be, 14 or 15. I talked to some other people, thought it was going to be 14 or 15. And they even said they didn't even think that if the Cajuns had beaten Texas State, if they would have gotten to 12. There was applause when South Alabama got in, a little love for their Sunbelt sisters. And it had sort of broken up by the time Texas State got in. Everybody was watching it, and they by the time Texas A&M was announced, kind of broken up. There's a little applause for them as well. One of the bigger surprises was LSU not getting a top seed, not getting a top 8 seed. They are hosting, they are 9, and they're not matched up with the Cajuns. Cajuns, as it turns out, is matched up with Gainesville. So technically you could have South Alabama and the Cajuns going at it for a right to go to Oklahoma City. I thought it was, that's really good. 3 Sun Belt teams in the NCAA tournament, and you got a shot for 2 of them to make it through. I think you got a shot with South Alabama, all right? I still think Florida would be heavily favored in that, but don't be surprised if South Alabama makes waves down there. Cajuns are going to be favored, although, because I don't know a whole lot about the softball elsewhere, they'll be favored, but that's not easy with Ole Miss and Baylor. And we'll see what Princeton is all about. We'll see if we can get a meatball sub from Central Jersey, if anybody wants to bring me one down. Sansone Brothers, to be specific. Route 27, Franklin Park. And I'm told that the Bobcats are 4-0 against who they're playing. They got Penn State, which they swept, and they beat A&M. So this is not going to be, won't be a shock by any stretch of the imagination if Texas State makes it through. So the Sun Belt has a real shot for 2 teams to be playing in a super regional. Probably going to be disappointed if the Cajuns don't make it. Certainly there's going to be some disappointment depending on how Texas State plays and doesn't make it. But if they do, don't be surprised. And we'll see if South Alabama can rise to the occasion. It's going to be tough. I would tell you, Texas State probably has the best depth in pitching from what I've seen. The Cajuns do not have the pitching that they had last year. They have 2 girls who can pitch their way through a regional. If the Cajuns lose one of the first 2 games, it's going to be really difficult to make it. If they have to go 5 games, Last year they had the pitching. This year they don't. They don't have enough to do that. They have enough to win 4, maybe. They'd prefer 3, obviously. So it's really important if the Cajuns are going to make it through to win the first 2. I presume that's the same way for South Alabama. Texas State may have a little bit more depth than the other 2 from what I saw, but I still think that obviously it's much easier if you win your first 2 ball games. Period. It doesn't matter how much depth of pitching you have, but last year the Cajuns have it. This year they do not. So we shall see. I'm actually going to be landing in Louisville, Kentucky when that regional is pitching, so is kicking off. So the Cajuns regional. So unfortunately will not be here attending the nephew's high school graduation, although there's a PGA championship going on at the same time in Louisville. All right, let's take a time out. We'll come back. We'll talk about all the baseball action that happened this past weekend. There was some exciting and a few upsets, that's for sure. Although the Cajuns, maybe this was a little bit surprising as well, sweep the Georgia Southern Eagles to secure that number 1 seed in the Sun Belt Conference Tournament. We will do that when we come back and we tell you about LinkedIn and Lafayette Travel. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and may not have the time or resources to hire. 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And Lafayette Travel. Escape to Lafayette, Louisiana, the happiest city in America, where every visit is uniquely seasoned with unforgettable experiences. Savor world-class cuisine, including mouth-watering boudin, savory gumbo, and piping hot crawfish, seasoned to perfection. Experience lively festivals that celebrate Lafayette's one-of-a-kind heritage, explore magnificent trails that lead you through our rich cultural history and breathtaking natural beauty. Discover the untouched purity of our cypress and Tupelo swamps, where you can paddle past nesting birds and sunbathing alligators. Immerse yourself in the vibrant rhythms of Cajun and Zydeco music that can be heard any night of the week. Whether your passion is for our rich cultural history, the bustling culinary scene, or the distinctive blend of Cajun and Zydeco music, the happiest city in America has something for everyone. Start planning your adventure at LafayetteTravel.com/season. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Back to today's episode, talking now baseball. And the Cajuns come into that series against Georgia Southern struggling. And I did my Schultzy cast, which you should absolutely subscribe to over on YouTube. Did that live and didn't realize the Cajuns pitching was up for grabs, although it turns out it really wasn't. Apparently, Andrew Herman getting some injections, a little inflammation, so he was out. Now, he has struggled the last 2 outings on the road, Coastal Carolina and Troy, and Georgia Southern's ballpark, which we found out on Friday, plays a little bit like those ballparks. So they went with Blake Marshall, who went all of an inning and 2/3. LP Langevin comes in and takes care of the rest, although he had plenty of help. But we didn't know it was a little bit of gamesmanship on Matt Diggs' part, because Georgia Southern went TBD, so he went TBD, but it was still Chase Morgan on Saturday, and back on Sunday was Carson Fluna. Cajuns bats came alive, 19 runs on Friday, scored 6 runs, although they gave up a 4-0 deficit or 4-0 lead. They win 6-4. And won 9-2 on Sunday. Now, the thing here is people keep on pitching to Kyle DeBarge, and I don't understand it. Now, if you hit a solo home run, I probably should look what it was. He hit a solo home run, I think in the first inning on Friday. But I'm going to pitch around him as well. I'm going to be careful. And if I fall behind him, I'm going to walk him. Now, if he hits a 1-2 pitch out, you make a mistake, that's on you. But on Saturday, in a 4-4 ball game where your team came back to tie things up, you have runners on at first and second, 2 outs, and Kyle DeBarge at the plate. And third base is open. They don't walk Kyle DeBarge. Of course, he gets a base hit, brings home a run. I think they scored another run on a wild pitch, made it 6-4. All right. The kid has now, I don't know what it was then, but now in his last, I think it's 12 ball games, because we went back a couple more to Coastal. He's got like 24 RBIs in his last 12 ball games, but they keep on pitching to him. Mark Etheridge, covering the Florida series, said Florida slugger got walked. Is that Jack Castiglione? He got walked, and with runners on at first and second, it's because third base was open, and they struck out the next batter. Guess what? They had it again on Sunday. Unbelievable. Runners on the first and second. I don't think it was much of a game at that point in time. Maybe it was. Maybe it was, because it was a Georgia Southern actually took a lead on a home run. Then the Cajuns tied it up on a home run. Maybe it was like 2-1. Cajuns. And then he got a base hit because they still pitched to him, although it was a 1-2 count. I just don't get it. He's like the hottest player. If he's not one of the hottest players on the planet, he's certainly one of the hottest players in the Sun Belt. Don't pitch to Kyle DeBarge. It can't be that hard. If the next guy comes up and hits a grand slam, tip your cap to the next guy. I'm not pitching to Kyle DeBarge. They keep on doing it. He keeps on raking. Cajuns with a sweep. They needed a little bit of help to secure the number 1 seed. Now, there's, I guess, if you are tied record-wise, then you're co-champions. And so, coming into the action, Southern Miss and Troy were 3 games back. Troy had a come-from-behind win over Texas State on Saturday, and Southern Miss is blowing out Arkansas State. So they're both 3 games back. Southern Miss was, again, on their way to another blowout win, but they can't be the number 1 seed because the Cajuns beat Southern Miss. Troy, on their other hand, took 2 out of 3 from the Cajuns, so they could still do it, except they didn't. They let Texas State come back and beat them. I think Texas State kind of blew it, and then it was a 5-5 game, and the go-ahead run comes home from second base for Troy on a strikeout wild pitch. I don't think I've seen that very often in the 9th inning, where the go-ahead run comes all the way around from second base on a wild pitch. That was the go-ahead run, but Texas State ties it up in the bottom half of the 9th. They had a chance to win it. They had runners on at first and second, and only 1 out, couldn't get the runners home. It goes to the 11th. Chase Mora, who he had that big series in Houston, he comes up with a clutch 2-run home run to give a Texas State the win. And that eliminates Troy from being the number 1 seed or co-champion. But on the back end, it also helps Texas State in a huge way, because they're still just trying to get into the tournament, right? Only the top 10 teams get in, and they're fighting Georgia State. Now, Georgia State did beat Coastal Carolina in the first game on Sunday, but then Coastal Carolina comes back on the second game on Sunday. So Texas State is 12-15. Georgia State is 12-15. They're both tied for 10th. Marshall, ULM, and Arkansas State, they are pretty much eliminated from the postseason play. And so now you got 2 teams fighting for it on the bottom of the standings, trying to get in. We did see some good news. Georgia State has announced they're funding a new ballpark, so that will be a welcome addition to the That'll be a welcome addition to the conference. Okay. Georgia State is hosting Old Dominion, and Texas State is at Southern Miss. I would tell you Georgia State seems to have the advantage there as of right now, is what it would appear. Between Georgia State and Texas State. Old Dominion is pretty good, though, so we shall see. All right, we'll go over the rest of the Sun Belt baseball, and then we'll take a peek of what's going to happen to wrap up the regular season. And again, if you're top 6 seed, you get a bye. If you're 7, 8, 9, 10, which again, Texas State and Georgia State are just trying to get in, you have to play in that single elimination game. All right, we will do that when we come back. Let me tell you about FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Also, don't forget about that PGA Championship. I should be able to come back with the PGA Championship hat, at least. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's check out the rest of what happened over the weekend, or at least on Sunday. Remember, this weekend's games are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which I almost forgot. So that'll be good. We do have some Tuesday games, interestingly enough. South Alabama may be South Alabama's playing Southeastern in Hammond on Tuesday. I don't know if they're going to go. Are they going to go home after that and come all the way back? I don't know why they would do that. Just come here for the extra night, I guess. All right, so Georgia State and Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina ends up winning that series 2 out of 3, but Georgia State did take the first game on Sunday 10-9. Old Dominion takes down App State 11-10 in 12 innings on Sunday. Marshall upends James Madison 11-7. As we mentioned, Texas State with a big win in extra innings over Troy 8-6. Cajuns hammered Georgia Southern 9-2, sweep that series. South Alabama also had a big win over ULM. They have to come back. I think they scored a run in the 9th and a run in the 13th to avoid losing a home series to ULM. That helps South Alabama a lot. We'll get to that here in a second. Southern Miss over Arkansas State 14-6, and Coastal wins the nightcap, if you will, 17-7 over Georgia State. So here are the standings, and I believe these are up to date and correct. Cajuns 21-6. They're in first, and they are your #1 seed in Montgomery. Southern Miss is second, and they're 18-9. They are 1 game ahead of Troy. Well, let's check that out. Let's see what happened in that series. Did they not play? Oh, they did play. And Southern Miss won 2 out of 3. Okay, so Southern Miss basically leads Troy by 2.5 games, or 1.5 games. So their magic number is basically 2, right? If they win and Troy wins, now that would be it. So their number is 1. If they get one more win, no, because they're 1 game back. So, okay, yeah. So they're 1 game back. They're 18-9 and 17-10. So they're 1 game back. So if Southern Miss wins and Troy wins, Southern Miss could lose both ball games and Troy could win both ball games. So their magic number is 2 to gain that 2 seed, if you will. All right. I think that's right. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. App State 15-11-1. That tie is going to give them 4th place. James Madison 15-12. Georgia Southern, which I think was tied for 3rd coming into that Cajun series, has now fallen to, they are 6th. All right. But they hold, unbelievable. They hold a 2-game lead over Coastal Carolina, and South Alabama are both 13-14. Old Dominion is 13-14. So there is a big opportunity to not play in that first series. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Georgia Southern, now we got to check out the schedule here. So actually, James Madison and Georgia Southern are technically tied for 5th. And Coastal Carolina, South Alabama, Old Dominion are all tied for 7th. All right. I would think that would be hard for those teams to overtake Georgia Southern because someone's going to have to sweep for the most part. And then someone's going to have to, get swept. I doubt that's going to happen, but you never know. So let's go to the schedule and see where we are coming up. All right. The midweek games don't matter. All right. So Coastal Carolina at Marshall. So that's a big advantage for Coastal Carolina. All right. Georgia Southern is at App. That's not going to be easy. And then South Alabama is at the Cajuns. I presume that is not going to be easy either. So, and JMU is at Troy. That's not going to be easy. So, okay. So, I mean, you could have some shakeup depending on what happens this weekend coming up. I know Troy didn't play very well at Texas State. They'll probably play much better at home. We'll see how James Madison handles playing in that ballpark. So, James Madison could get swept by Troy. Don't be surprised about that. Georgia Southern and App State, I'm not sure that's a sweeping type of series, but that could be 2 out of 3. So Georgia Southern could be 16-14. And see, that's the problem with Coastal Carolina and South Alabama. I presume Coastal Carolina is going to sweep Marshall, but you never know. And I would think that would be tough. Not only be tough for South Alabama to sweep, it's going to be tough for them to see if they can even win the series. So that's going to be a tough spot for South Alabama. But it would be important for South Alabama to win 1 just to make sure they clinch a spot in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. So that is still up for grabs as well. And did I mention Texas State yet? Where was Texas State coming up? Texas State is at Southern Miss. We did do that. So that is not going to be easy either. All right. So looking forward to that. We will preview those games coming up. I am doing a little traveling, so we should get in all the episodes this week. We do have Clay Helton coming up, head coach of Georgia Southern. See if we can get in some other football coaches that are all still dealing with the portal, trying to not worry about getting kids in, but getting kids out. And should be able to do Mondays and Tuesdays episode before I come back. So hopefully we will get them all in. Yeah, we're heading to Louisville on Friday. So everything should be all set for this week. But looking forward to previewing the softball regionals and, wrapping up baseball regular season as well. All right. We're up over 1,200, right? We're getting closer to, I guess we quickly look. It was 12:10 the last time I looked. So we're doing okay. We're moseying along. Some people are new to everything around here, but we keep on getting more new people as we go. So we do appreciate it. Let's see here if we can play something without actually sound here. The dashboard. We're up to 1214. So that's pretty cool. All right. Still, now we need less than 300 before August 31st. So it's 2.5 months. We'll see how that goes. We got some media days coming up. So that could be a big, big help. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend. I am your host, Dave Schultz. Have a fantastic Monday. And you've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.